Well, what to do with a season that began with so much promise and wandered to a vapid conclusion. One thing to do is to try and assess what needs to improve as a sort of cheat sheet for our incoming manager. A cheat sheet of areas in need of change and improvement. Let's call it a to-do list. I will also be making a ta-da list of things the new manager can be pleased with and can build on. But the to-do list is longer, so let's get that out of the way first. What to do with Dodds? Where to begin?
It's not one to forget. It's one that we're going to have to use and pick the bones out of.
When Mike Dodds returned for his third stint as caretaker manager, we didn't know what we would get. He had seemed to grow between the first and second stint as boss. However, this third time he was full of hubris and proceeded to get it all wrong.
Sunderland picks something up of that one.
Yeah, another disappointing second half. We never got out.
Game after game. For an in-depth look at this, I'll link the video where I make this case at the end of this one. Almost unbelievably, Mike Dodds outperformed Beale in the How Shit Are You stakes with just one win in his first 6, ending in a 5-1 pasting at home to Blackburn. And from there, Dodds just gave up and played some of the least ambitious football we've witnessed under Kirill Louis-Dreyfus, with 5 at the back and everyone defending in the box against everyone we played against. Terrified to lose and even more afraid to play, we wasted the end of the season with feeble, feckless selections and tactics, garnering a total of 9 losses from the final 13 games of the season under Mike Dodds. How he keeps his job as continuity coach after delivering that shower when the club claims to want dynamic, attacking front foot football is beyond me. Sorry, I just can't explain it to you. I have defended him previously, but there is no way I want any continuity of what his coaching and choices have delivered. The new manager must insist on their own assistants and coaches, or else have a very clear vision to instruct Dodds in, because he also bears the blame for my next series of issues. Corners. This has to be something the new manager tackles, because we're terrible at corners both in attack and defence. Let's take them one at a time. Attacking corners. Last season, under Mowbray, we lacked height. Fine. So Mowbray had us take short corners, and that continued into the start of this season. This had some merit as the only real way we might possibly break down a defence, by putting in more vertical balls and stretching the opposition defensive line. Yet we never progressed beyond that idea. The reality is that attacking corners is a serious business that needs proper planning to load certain areas, pull defensive players out of line to create space, and then you attack that space. Look at the way Burnley engineered their second goal against us last season. Look how these smart runs rip open the Sunderland defence and leave an exposed goal with Teller unmarked. It is exceptionally well planned to make space and provide an overload of attackers to attack that space. Losing away to Leicester this season is another good example and shows just how little progress we made between those two games.
Leicester City lead. Just like that.
Sunderland defend corners as most teams do these days, with a mixture of man marking and zonal positioning. Leicester's corner is pretty well worked, but one we are set for and should be capable of defending. Inacho on the goal line here runs as if to collect the short corner, dragging Neil out of the goal line defence. This is deliberate to open up space for Justin to attack at the front post. As it happens, we're pretty well set, and Bellingham has the space for the header covered zonally, and Huggins has the line covered at the front post, so really this should be dealt with.
Relatively unchallenged here to steer the header home.
Leicester are one of the few teams in the division with worse stats than us in aerials, yet they had a clear plan as to how to pull defenders out of the way and attack the subsequent space. Now, we don't do anything like this. In fact, it took us until the last 6 games of this season to realise that Adil Al-Shish was in fact our best corner taker, despite pointing this out in his arrival video, with evidence that he was capable of doing so. You'd think the wretchedness of our corner taking up to this point might have prompted the coach to work on this all so much sooner. Eventually, in the last 3 games of the season, This is after 2 years and 90 consecutive games. We saw our first proper corner plan, with Bradley Dack clearly targeting the front and back post options with runs to go with it. If, after 2 years and 90 consecutive games, this is how long it takes and this is the extent of our corner coaching, then it is in no way good enough. Defending corners. It is no better at the other end. Defending corners, we are too weak. Too many of our players do not fight for space. Pierre Ekwa here.
Sometimes you get worried about your man, but when the ball's in there, you just got to get up there. He's gone on the inside of Ekwa.
Job here, out-jumped by James Justin at Leicester, who is nearly half a foot shorter than him. In all instances, and so many, many more, our players do not demand, seize, fight for the space the ball is coming to. They give it up to the opposition weakly. There is simply no way Danny Bart ever lets opposition players near these kinds of headers, let alone allows them to score from it.
A totally free header. Sunderland going a mix of man-to-man and zonal. And Connor Chaplin in a zone of his own. Just about the smallest man on the field. Pounces to nod home to put Ipswich 2-1 up.
Why have the players not had it drilled into them to dominate space at corners, to manage opponents and compete with them better for nearly 2 seasons? It is frankly inexcusable. If Dodds remains for continuity of coaching, will we go 3 years without any significant training or improvement? Because this area costs us games, and the new manager needs to address it. Free kicks. Free kicks suffer from exactly the same problem. A lack of height a year ago forced Mowbray to simply take them quickly, but this season things were slow. With each managerial change, they got even slower. Wrong choices were often made as to which footed player should take it or whether it should be a cross or a shot, and by the end of the season 4 or 5 players were having lengthy discussions about what they should do. It is clear that zero planning, practice or instruction was ever done regarding free kicks. Again, to simply have no plan at this level should be inexcusable. The team should know what sort of free kick we take in a given pitch situation. At the very least, they should know what the options are and who is designated to take them. We had no clue about any of this. How can Dodds be called a good coach, having overseen this situation for 2 years? I hope the new manager gets some clear rules and structures into our dead ball play, because it's all been pretty poor thus far. Defending, perhaps a little controversial because our defending has actually held up well generally in the league, but where it is poor and where it can be expected to improve is in the tactics and the setup. Currently, we make poor choices in setup and approach, and that is compounded by being slow and weak under second balls. It was mind-numbing then, on top of this, to watch Dodds start pulling every single player back for corners and free kicks, so as not to have a single outlet from clearances. Hopefully a new, competent coach will put this ineptitude in tactics right. We wait to see.
Good for Volks. Some of the deep water might find Ugbo, who stuttered. Bannon!
Over the season, though, we lost far too many games to sucker punches, down to poor defending against teams where we should have known better tactically, leaving space behind the fullbacks for the flying winger Ronald against Swansea.
Ball, Ronald, 2! Swansea double.
Sitting deep against Norwich and allowing one of the best crossing teams in the league to put crosses in to good crossing finishes. Who'd have thought?
Second, third chance, fourth chance goes in.
Passing ourselves into no safety outlets against one of the most the most intense pressers in the league in Blackburn.
Foul, nothing given. Dolan could be in. It's 4-0.
And, like I said, one of my most hated crimes, watching opposition players win second balls. Like here, against Stoke. You can whinge about the handball if you like, but we don't even have to if we're challenging for that ball.
Goes down and
On ball.
play continues, and Stoke have scored, and the
On ball.
Our movement from defence into attack has gradually slowed as the season has progressed. Passes started to go backwards, and consequently we have struggled to break teams down.
No. You can hear the crowd again. Yes, step in, open up and drive down.
On top of this, we saw some confused tactics, playing Hamir up front and yet not playing any wingers to cross to him.
But it's what we do once we do manage to get on the ball.
Or removing Abdullah Bar against Ipswich, our most creative player in that game, and then dropping him completely from the squad the next game. Often the choices, formation and selection have made little sense as the season collapsed towards the end. Transfers. Whilst we can complain that we never played to Rusin's strengths, or Hamir never got crosses, both of which might be true, it also looks like neither of them are actually currently good enough to lead our attack, if we wish to be a promotion side. Equally, fair play to Luke O'Nien stepping in at centre-half. His passing from the back is some of the best. But seriously, he's not getting into a top 6 team at centre-half. So the fact that he remains our first choice for that position is something of concern. It needs to change. I know he's popular. I like him too. But people, he's not a centre-half in a promotion-winning side. We really need to nail down our transfers this summer. 12 months ago, when Corey Evans was injured and the season was over, we all recognised that we needed to replace him. We thought last summer, 12 months ago, an absolute bare-bones minimum for our transfers would have to be a centre-half, a striker and a defensive midfielder. A year later, and we are still waiting for those effective replacements to come in the door. Now, on top of that, we have further needs. The new manager has been a long time coming, some might say too long. What I do know is that by the time they arrive here, they'll only have pre-season to see and assess the squad, and that means almost no time at all to feed into what is required in terms of transfers. So already at this stage, with no appointed manager yet, we're still looking towards the January transfer window when that future manager could even have any impact on the team. It's not good enough, really. Lack of understanding. Now, there's not a lot a new manager can do about this one, but if they are smart, they can help repair this situation. The club misjudged a lot this season, and in some sense there's no going back on those errors. Jokes are regularly made about our likely cheap choices in preparing for next season. Speakman should read Machiavelli's The Prince for some understanding of where things stand, because I don't think he realises. When fans don't disagree amongst themselves, but are united in mocking you, then you are one step away from being hated by them. If things go wrong again on the self-immolating scale of this season, then the next steps down the ladder are dangerous ones. So this summer is really important in that respect if KLD wants to make this project work. Nobody believes their spiel about data-driven appointments anymore after the appointment of Beale. Nobody believes their talk of preparedness and planning when they sack Mowbray and have not even investigated if they can get who they want in replacement. Nobody believes their utterances when they talk about the best coaching sessions ever seen, and yet before your eyes each weekend is indisputably worse football. Nobody believes they didn't know the Mags were going to redecorate the Black Cat's Bar because we all found out about it 3 weeks before it happened that it was going to. The utter ineptitude over the Mags game and the sheer grasping of money with which they approached it clouded any desire to understand what it meant. All of these things mean that the owners have burnt a lot of their credit. They are the sorts of things you can only be found out about once over. They have to get it right this summer. Let's hope they do, starting with the new manager appointment. And if that doom and gloom assessment of what needs to improve didn't kill you, then try the next one. It's all the things the new manager can be hopeful about and build on. But as we all know, it's the hope I can't stand.